Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Chainsaw Reacts podcast. Today's podcast is going to be focusing on 4 subjects, 2 of which are news items I want to discuss, one being an injury by Harrison Ford, his plane crash. I also want to talk a little bit about Warner Brothers CEO Kevin Tsujihara, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, talking about Marvel vs. DC films, his quote, and my thoughts on that. And at the end of this podcast, I'm going to be talking a little bit more in depth of the Avengers Age of Ultron trailer number 3 I reacted to a couple of days ago, the newest trailer for Avengers Age of Ultron, and then I'll be ending with talking about the announcement for Rock Band 4. I'm very excited about that game, but you'll see, of course, in the description of this video, you'll see, of course, the timelines of when these subjects start, so you know when to skip ahead, or you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the entire podcast. Anyways, guys, let's stop talking and get this intro out of the way. Let's jump into the plane crash of Harrison Ford. This piece of information really shocked me because I didn't hear about it until literally 8 hours after it happened. I came home from work and I'm looking on my phone, and all of a sudden I see Harrison Ford plane crash on Facebook. I'm like, what? And I started reading onto it, and this is where my issue comes, and this is why I want to talk about it. Not really about his injury and about basically what happened to him, because that's all over, and we can all read that online, and that's, not really news. But my whole take on this is not necessarily the crash itself, but the way the media basically broke this story to begin with, and how they approached it and how they worded it by getting those clickbaits and getting those views on their articles. It was just downright disgusting. So we know now that Harrison Ford's plane crash that just happened recently, as I'm recording this podcast, in 2015, his plane crash was very minor compared to plane crashes we hear about today. He didn't have that many injuries. He was basically minor injuries. He really didn't have a lot of bad things that happened during the crash. He basically landed it very safely, as we can see in the pictures, but they did take him in, to make sure he's okay, and they checked him all over, and as I'm recording this podcast, he's still in the hospital, but he's expected to make a full recovery. There's nothing really too out of the ordinary there. My issue was how the media covered this, and this is why I'm discussing the topic first, because the way the media worded it was not that Harrison Ford plane crash, minor injuries, or Harrison Ford plane crash, injuries, he's okay, he's, basically the way they worded it when it first happened and the news broke, and the way they worded it, a lot of these reporters and a lot of these journalists online, and how they were basically getting the people to click on their freaking article about this, was Harrison Ford plane crash in critical condition or serious injury. And by the way they worded it, or maybe they're not straight to the point, but how they're wording it is that he's in critical condition. He broke like his back, or he broke his leg or something. Like all these things are running through your head. And then when you click on it, you realize it's not even close to what the title of the article was. It was that he had some cuts on his head. There might have been an injury to his ribs or something like that. But the way they worded it, the title of these articles was that Harrison Ford plane crash. Serious condition, critical condition, very serious injury. There's a lot of bad things going on. And people started to freak out. And then once you start reading into it more, and when more of the articles came out, because the thing was, people were so fast to jump on the bandwagon of just getting the article out there saying that Harrison Ford might die. He's in critical condition. Oh my God, this is terrible. Then when the later articles that came out later that day, and the articles that were coming out the day after the event, and basically, letting the people know about this, that they started wording their articles differently, to where it was just he's in minor injuries, he was taken to the hospital, but the wording was not that he was in serious condition. This is another reason why I hate the media for the most part. I hate the journalistic part of the media, where they throw out stories like the TMZs and the Insider and all that bullshit, where they basically they have to word their articles so specific to the point where you have to click on it because you're like, oh, did something happen to this person? And then you realize it's not even as serious as they claim it is in the title. That's how they get you. And I know it's a common thing and everyone knows that, but it just bothers me so much because this is somebody who we all love and respect either as Indiana Jones or Han Solo. And the truth of the matter is, it wasn't a serious injury. But the fact that he's a big name actor, Star Wars The Force Awakens is coming out later this year, it's a big deal. That these journalists and these people that wanted to get the word out there and put it on their little blogs or put it on their website, they had to word it in a way to get people to go clicking to their page. They used his minor injury, which it actually was a minor injury, to basically try to get viewership. It's very disgusting. It's basically like if, there's a celebrity, in the sense of a celebrity got into a car wreck. It's like the same thing like that, and the car wreck wasn't serious, but the way the media is going to take it is, oh, it was a serious injury, and they want people to click on it because they know that a lot of people care for Harrison Ford. They know people care about these big celebrities. So once something like this happens, whether it's minor or serious, they have to word it in a way that people will have to go read their article when it's basically a copy and paste of somebody else's. It's just disgusting, and I really wish this was not the case, because when I first heard about this piece of information was one of the articles that said that Harrison Ford plane crash in critical condition. And then Twitter went crazy for like about an hour or so saying he was in critical condition, which he was not in critical condition ever at all at this point, during this whole entire ordeal of the plane crash. Never was he in critical condition. But that's how the media worded it. That's how the media went with it, and it's just disgusting. It is just a disgusting thing to see that. And I really wish this stopped. I really wish it did, because it's fooling people into believing something that's not true. And when I was reading through all the Twitter stuff, some people were tweeting that they thought that Harrison Ford was going to die because these articles, how they were worded, people were like, oh my God, he might die. And it's just like, no, if you look into more of the actual information versus people's speculations and what they think happened, then you're going to assume something that's not true. That's how these people word their stuff, because they want to basically seem like it's facts, but it's not. That's the way they were wording it, their titles. And some of these articles, as I was looking more into these articles, getting ready for this podcast to record and talk about this, that some of these actual journalists and people that reported this as soon as it happened or soon after were wording their articles in a way that it seemed like that the stuff they were saying in their articles were fact, which actually the truth was, it was not fact at all. They were speculating, but the way they worded it was that it is fact and that people believed it. It's very disturbing. Some people on Facebook as well, besides Twitter, that my friends, they were posting, sharing these articles and claiming that Harrison Ford is probably going to be the next celebrity to die after Leonard Nimoy. It's like, people, calm down, okay? It's unfortunate we lost Leonard Nimoy. He was an icon, yes. But Harrison Ford, in no way, shape, or form, at any point of this ordeal, was in critical condition. And people are just blowing it out of proportion. And I'm glad that now the articles that are coming out are being represented in a positive way and actually being honest and truthful and saying that he's in the hospital, he's doing great, there's no serious injuries at all. And that's the way it should be. There should never have been an article put out saying he was in critical or serious condition, because that just basically tells lies to the actual public out there that we're looking into this. So I'm glad things are changed for the better. Let me take a sip of water, and we'll jump into the Kevin Sujihara comments. Okay, so sorry guys about that. I ran it a little bit, but I might repeat myself a little bit. I think it did, but it is what it is. So anyways, let's get to the Kevin Sujihara, his comment about DC versus Marvel, which is probably going to be a big thing we're going to be discussing here, but hopefully it'll be short and sweet and to the point. So Kevin Sujihara came on board for Warner Brothers, and he is now the CEO for Warner Brothers, and he is the guy that is pushing this DC Cinematic Universe forward. And so before I get to these comments, I do want to say this. I really respect this man because he is pushing this forward, because before Kevin Sujihara came on board as CEO for Warner Brothers was scared to come out with a universe of DC or put out more films. The fact that Man of Steel came out was amazing, because before that we had the Christopher Nolan trilogy, but in retrospect you could not put Superman or Green Lantern or Martian Manhunter or Wonder Woman in the Christopher Nolan Batman universe. It doesn't make sense, because that universe for the Christopher Nolan trilogy of Batman films was set in reality. This is real life stuff. This is a real person In the real world, there's no fantasy stuff. He's a guy who spends millions of dollars on his gadgets and his suit, and he has, of course, Lucius Fox creating them. There's no way you could add a alien from Krypton, Superman. You can't add Wonder Woman. You can't add the Green Lantern into this. It would basically flip the Christopher Nolan trilogy on its head. So, get to the main point. Kevin Tsujihara, I respect the man for this, for what he's doing to push the DC Cinematic Universe forward, and I'm glad he's doing that. And so anyways, let's get to his comments. His comment was, as I read here, I copied and pasted and put in the notepad here for me to read, because these freaking websites are blasting music in my ears, so I had to do this. The Warner Brothers chairman and CEO, Kevin Tsujihara, talked about the differences between the Marvel and DC brands by saying, "The worlds of DC are very different. They're steeped in realism, and they're a little bit edgier than Marvel movies." Now, this comment has been blowing up like crazy on the internet. These comments have been spreading around, and of course, it's got Marvel fanboys and DC fanboys fighting back and forth. And DC fanboys, as they're called, or DC, people that love the DC world and universe, basically are praising his comments and loving him because they're thinking that it's a bash towards the Marvel people. And the way I see it is that, it's fun. I'm basically agreeing with a person I actually watch a lot on YouTube, John Campea from AMC Movie Talk, and he basically, after he talked about these comments today on his AMC Movie Talk show on AMC AMC Theaters YouTube channel, and was talking about how he took this comments as it's a friendly jab. Marvel and DC really don't have an issue. It's basically just poking fun and just having fun, and I agree with that, because If Kevin Tsujihara would have came out and said that the DC films are gonna be better than the Marvel films, and they're gonna be darker, and they're gonna be more all these things, basically saying that Marvel films are not that good. Essentially, where it's a huge comment, instead of saying we're gonna be a little bit edgier than Marvel, basically that just says that they might take a character a little bit farther than than Marvel might. I mean, look at what happened in Man of Steel. In the retrospect, Superman in the comics, really, as far as I know, now I could be wrong, and you guys could obviously tell me in the comments. I really want to hear your feedback on this particular point. Superman, I'm pretty sure it's kind of like the Batman situation where he doesn't kill people, because the way it was set up in the film in Man of Steel, when we're talking about that specific part, spoiler if you've not seen Man of Steel, he snaps Zod's neck. He has to, because Zod's going to kill an innocent family, so he has to kill Zod, to prevent that. So, and the way he reacted was very, very emotional. So I'm wondering if they're going to be taking their other DC characters like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and take them in these darker directions, edgier directions, as he worded it, Kevin Tsujihara did. Does that mean that he's basically saying that, our DC characters are going to go a little bit darker than what Marvel people could go? But who knows? Because, see, we're about to get Age of Ultron from Marvel. This film is looking to be very dark, and I hope that it is. But that doesn't mean that there is some light moments in it, because there probably will be light moments, but who knows? Marvel might start going really dark in Phase 3. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think that Kevin Tsujihara is just setting the tone that, when you go into seeing Batman vs. Superman, you might see something that you're not expecting to see in a comic book film. Who knows? In the world of, these PG-13 type films, because in retrospect, I don't see, excuse me, DC putting out a R-rated film and then having like a PG-13 slate of like 7 films and then another R. I see that once you start, going in the direction of what your cinematic universe is going to be, your films are going to be set in the PG-13 realm, because Marvel has been sticking with PG-13. I don't see them going R at any point, because they know a majority of their audiences are teenagers, of course adults, but they have some young kids, so they can't go too edgy. But is DC going to be pushing the limit for some of their films? Maybe. Maybe that's what he's trying to get at with his comments of being a little bit more edgier. That they're going to push the envelope a little bit more with their films, besides what Marvel does. Because Marvel is probably going to push some edges with Age of Ultron. But I don't see these comments as attacking Marvel. For me personally, I love DC and I love Marvel. I love both. I've loved the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I bought early tickets for Age of Ultron, and when DC starts announcing, when they start coming out with trailers and coming out with the films in the DC Cinematic Universe, I'm gonna be right there watching them. I'm gonna be enjoying them. I'm gonna be liking them, and of course, I'll be critiquing them like I do the Marvel films. But I'm excited for both because I love both. Batman is becoming one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, but that doesn't mean that Marvel is any less important in my life. I grew up on Marvel. I grew up on DC. I love both, and I want both. I'm not a person who picks sides. Whenever I see people posting online or, commenting about, DC fanboy, Marvel fanboy, I'm just like, guys, come on. We don't need to fight. I mean, if you don't like Marvel and you love DC, fine. If you love, if you love the others and then you hate the other, fine, that's fine. I really don't care. But there's no real reason to bash the other thing just because you don't like it. Now, obviously, if someone asks you directly what's your opinion on this, that's fine, but just posting a photo on a group on Facebook or posting a comment on at some forum or something to get the DC and Marvel fanboys fighting each other, that's kind of dumb because, like, what's the point of that? What is the point of doing all that? Like, what, just to see the reaction of some people? It's just ridiculous in my personal opinion. We need to, just kind of pull it back a little bit. We don't need to be going off the the edge and basically just attacking everybody or basically screaming at people or hating people for a certain reason. If you like Marvel and you like DC, fine, but it's not a bad thing to like both, and that's the way some people are acting. But his comments in general, I don't have an issue with at all. I think that he's just speaking his mind of what he really wants the DC movies to go, and if he does agree with that, his own statement that DC is going to go edgier, I'm intrigued. I'm not saying that Marvel is bad. I'm not saying when I like his comments saying that Marvel is terrible and they're not edgy enough. Marvel is edgy in their own rights, and DC is going to be edgy in their own rights because they're set in two different universes. Marvel and DC are never going to have the same universe. If that ever does happen, that's like the dream film, but it will never happen. But in the DC world is going to be different than the Marvel world. So what's edgy for Marvel is probably not going to be edgy for DC, and what's edgy for DC is probably not edgy for Marvel. So we got to have a set of tone here. We got to basically say, this is what this universe is for Marvel, this is what this universe is for DC, and let's stick with that. As long as the films are good, as long as the films have great stories, great dramatic moments, maybe some funny moments if they want to go that direction, but as long as the story is great, the characters are great, there's great development for the characters, I don't care what they do in the film. I don't care if they go edgy. I don't care if they stick with what they know and they stick in the norm and they don't go outside of the box too much. But as long as the story is great and it keeps the movie going forward and the characters are being developed correctly and they're just, basically doing what they need to do within the film, I don't have an issue. I just want to enjoy a great film. So let's stick with that. More water. Okay, done with the news stories. Let's jump into the Age of Ultron trailer number 3, because I want to talk a little bit more in depth about it, and then we'll get to Rock Band 4 announcement, and we'll be done with this podcast. So the Age of Ultron trailer number 3 came out, and it is phenomenal. I really love it so much because it does give you a few shots we've already seen in trailer 1 and trailer 2, but that's fine because you still have to have those really key moments within the first 2 trailers, and to really set up, to the people that may have not seen them, to really set up, what this movie is going to be about, because this trailer really gave us how Ultron came about, because, well, we know Tony Stark created Ultron. That's been confirmed for a while within this film. But to know that it's called the Ultron program, and that he came up with artificial intelligence, and that it seems like Tony knew from the start that he was making a bad choice, but he still went ahead with it. And I really love that we don't get to see him fully sitting on his throne, Ultron, but we see him sitting on his throne, talking to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, talking about, I was designed to save the world, or change the world. And then he was talking about how they look up to the sky and they see hope. I think I'm gonna take that from them first, and then goes on from there. And then there's only one way to get rid of them: their extinction. The extinction for for humanity, really. I feel like this trailer gave us a lot more info, but gave us some really cool shots, but doesn't give away what the film is essentially how it's going to go about. This film, I think, is 2 hours and 40 minutes, and this trailer does give you more knowledge of what to expect in the film story-wise, but the trailer doesn't give away what's going to happen. I love that, because it's so sad trailers nowadays sometimes give you way too much within the trailer, and it ruins the film. When you go see the film, you kind of see that happen. I mean, we look at the not really necessarily how the film's going to go, but how a trailer is set up to where when you see the trailer, you expect the film to be this way, and it's not. Chappie, this new film that's coming out with Hugh Jackman starring, and I forget, Sigourney Weaver, I think, is also starring as well. I could be wrong. The Chappie film, the robot film. Essentially, the trailer is set up to where Chappie's going to save the world. He's created and he's going to save the world. And in reality, when I was reading online that people were talking about it, because see, I'm not personally interested in seeing Chappie, but the way it's set up, apparently he's in with a bunch of drug dealers for about an hour in the film or something, and it's kind of ridiculous. But regardless, but like I was saying, the reason why I brought that up is because the trailer basically tricked you into thinking one way the film's going to be or how it's going to play, and it's completely different. But I feel like Avengers: Age of Ultron is going to get really dark. And I really want to see what makes Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch pick Ultron's side. Why do they want to go that direction? And then people have referenced that in Winter Soldier, at the post-credit scene, when we get first introduced to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch trapped in their little cages, essentially, that they are being brainwashed. So maybe that's why they're going with Ultron, because they're being brainwashed to follow the villains of the world, or to basically go against the good, and they find Ultron and see that he's not good at all. So maybe that's why they're following his side, but who knows. But I also like about the trailer is that they confirm that Scarlet Witch will be controlling people, because we see her use her little powers, and you see the eyes of Black Widow go really red, and it's creepy. And essentially that means that she's going to be manipulating people's minds, and that makes sense because we see Hulk fighting the Hulkbuster Iron Man, and you saw his eyes in the trailer number 2 at the end. As he turns, you see the red in his eyes, so that really confirms that Scarlet Witch is going to be who probably manipulates Bruce Banner's mind, and he goes Hulk out, and then they have to basically fight the Hulkbuster. So that's really cool. That shot of the Hulkbuster and the Hulk using the Hulkbuster Iron Man suit to run up the building, using the Hulkbuster Iron Man to run up the building and still hitting him, is just epic as all gets out. It is one of the best shots of the whole entire trailer. It is to die for. That trailer is just beautiful, and that shot is beautiful. That whole entire little section. Thor screaming out, "Is that the best you can do?" And Ultron laughs. I was like, oh, that's creepy. And then he throws his arm up, and then the army of Ultrons. Now, I want to stop here real quick before we continue on with the actual little post-credit shot, essentially the post-Avengers Age of Ultron logo shot. It's the shot of the Ultron bots, and we get to see the Avengers fighting them out, and the Hulk freaking out, throwing them all over the place. People have been referencing that this is basically a copy and paste of the first Avengers film, because the first Avengers, they fought the Chitauri, and of course Loki was the villain in the first Avengers. And people are saying that that Avengers Age of Ultron is not really unique in the sense of a story, because Ultron just has an army. Loki had an army. Ultron has an army of Ultron bots. And the way I look at that is that there has to be an army. There has to be something besides the main villain the Avengers have to fight. Because imagine if it was just Ultron. There's no bots, there's no Ultron army, it's just Ultron. The film would not last 2 hours and 40 minutes or however long the film is. The film's not going to be that long, because once Ultron goes a little awry and starts making these plans to destroy the world, they're going to kill him. They're going to destroy him. All of the Avengers together, there's no way. Yeah, he might recruit Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but they'll figure out a way to get around that, and they'll destroy him. There has to be an Ultron army of Ultron bots for the Avengers to basically have to deal with another thing, because this film cannot be short and sweet. It has to be a long film because we've been waiting 3 years since the first Avengers film to get another one. So this film has to have some big element, and the other big element besides, of course, Ultron is the Ultron army. And I'm telling you right now, just because it looked like it was going to be easy when we see that downward shot of looking down and seeing them all in the circle and they're fighting at the Ultron bots, trust me, it's probably not going to be easy as it looks in that shot. It looks cool and it's awesome. That's what the fans want. But trust me, I bet those Ultron bots are going to get stronger, or there's going to be more of them, and they're not going to be able to handle all of them and do that little circle maneuver thing where they can just shoot them back and keep them away from getting into the inner circle or whatever, or getting close to them. It's going to get pretty messy, I'm assuming. Now, of course, we get our first official shot of the Vision. And what people have been pointing out a lot more than the actual appearance of Vision is that there is a yellow stone on his head. And people have been discussing that that is one of the Infinity Stones that Thanos that has on his thumb. When you watch the Avengers Infinity War teaser trailer they showed at the Marvel announcement back in October of 2014, we saw this whole montage of different people from the MCU, talking, and then they're showing these different shots, and then you see the turn of the gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet that Thanos has. On his thumb is a yellow stone that looks very similar to the stone on Vision's head. So people are wondering, is that the Soul Gem? Because if it's the Soul Gem, it makes sense, because that's the main difference of the Vision and Ultron. Because essentially, Vision and Ultron are ultimately the same, but Ultron doesn't have a soul. Vision, with that stone, has a soul. So my theory is, if we're thinking further ahead here, does Thanos kill the Vision, or does he just get the stone from the Vision, and the Vision becomes what Ultron was, or becomes like Ultron in the sense of having no soul and can't really think for himself and has no emotion, just has nothing? Is that what's going to happen? Who knows exactly what direction they're going to go, but we got our first shot at the Vision officially, besides promo art and, trailer art. It's amazing, and I can't wait for this freaking movie. Oh my god. So anyways, guys, let's finish off with Rock Band 4 announcement. Let's take a sip of water real quick. Okay, so I was at work yesterday as I'm recording this podcast, and I got an email, and I thought it was just another email for a YouTube comment or something, or something from Twitter or something, and it was Harmonix that basically emailed and said Rock Band 4 announced. I'm like, what? So I read the email, went online and read about it, and the reason why I'm talking about this announcement for this game is because I am a huge fan of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I loved the Guitar Hero series. I'll admit, it got kind of more complicated as it went for Guitar Hero. In a sense, Rock Band kind of stayed the same, not in the sense of where it's bad the same, but in the sense of that they didn't go overboard, they didn't do too much craziness, they stuck with the full band aspect of guitar. You can also do bass with the guitar, vocals, and of course you can have drums. And of course Guitar Hero followed suit after. But Rock Band 1, 2, and 3 were really good. The DLC lineup they had for downloadable content songs were just amazing. The huge variety of songs that people could choose from was just amazing. It was just a huge variety. I got a bunch of them. Not really a bunch of them, but a bunch of ones that I really liked and from bands I really enjoy. So I got a pretty good collection. And what I like about the announcement for Rock Band 4 is that your past downloads from your past DLC, like downloadable songs you got from, say you had a PS3 and now you have a PS4 and you're using the same account essentially, like you just transferred your PS3 account to your PS4, then all the songs you downloaded from your PS3 from your Rock Band 1, 2, and 3, you'll be able to transfer over to Rock Band 4, I guess free of charge, I guess. And if you have a 360, in my case, and then you have an Xbox One, and you're using the same account with Rock Band 4, you can transfer your DLC songs. And that's awesome, because I have a bunch of songs, and I'm actually tempted to play the 360 again, and play some tracks that I actually downloaded from the Rock Band store. So that'd be cool, too. But I'm really excited about this, because I feel like that at the time when all of this came down, that Guitar Hero and Rock Band came out with so many versions. It was more of Guitar Hero and less of Rock Band, because Rock Band came out with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 portable versions for like DS and the PSP, I believe, or something like that. And then Guitar Hero came out with so many different portable versions, and they came out with like Guitar Hero 1, 2, and 3, and then like some Guitar Hero Van Halen, and they had Guitar Hero Metallica and Guitar Hero Aerosmith, I believe, yeah. And then they had like Guitar Hero 5 and 6, and they had these Rock of the 80s, and all these varieties and all these versions. Guitar Hero really milked the playing songs from a plastic controller mindset, playing like you're an actual rock star. Guitar Hero really, basically milked it to death. And I'm glad that Harmonix announced that Rock Band 4 is happening, because it's been teased for a little bit that Guitar Hero might come back in a more simplistic form like it was when it first came out, or that Rock Band was going to come back and was going to be, coming back to the limelight. And I think it's time. I think it's time to bring those back, because it's the new generations of consoles. And so it would make sense to basically bring a new generation of gamers that may have seen the end or the end of the era of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and then to see the revive of one of the franchises, Rock Band, and to basically get into it and might want to become musicians and might want to put down the plastic guitar and pick up a real one and go from there, because that's what happened to me. I was playing Guitar Hero 2 on my PS2 back in the day, and I went and bought a real guitar, and I've been playing guitar ever since, on and off, because I have other stuff like YouTube and working full time. But Guitar Hero and Rock Band really got me into actually playing real guitar, and so that was really, really cool that it helped me transfer over. But I enjoy those games simply because it's fun to do. I enjoy playing the songs, and I can't wait to see what Rock Band 4 is going to offer, because it could be the best thing ever since since Rock Band 3 or something. Because in all reality, Guitar Hero really milked it to death, and their game just got increasingly worse and worse and worse, essentially, with quality wise. For me personally, I still enjoy them, but they just, obviously they were putting more effort into, just the stuff that did not really matter at the end of the day. But like I said, I have high hopes for Rock Band 4. What do you guys think of it? What do you guys think of the topics I discussed today? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for listening to the 5th episode of the Chainsaw Reacts podcast. I'm Chainsaw Reacts, and this podcast is over, guys. Once again, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys soon.